Alright guys, welcome back to Game and Compute. Today I'm going to be talking some more about credit scores. And so previously I did a clip about credit scores. Raising my credit score, one method I was using this card that's called Extra. Sorry. They're changing the banister next to the stairs in front of our house. So not only is there construction across the street with them doing some landscaping and, taking out the cement, jackhammering and using those, like the backhoe trucks and I don't know what they're called, but they've got some heavy machinery over there. And then we have a maintenance person fixing the front by the stairs of our house. It's a noisy day, guys. I got my windows closed. It's hot. It's 82 degrees and I've got my windows closed, fan on. I got a nice little ice pack out of the freezer, so it's kind of keeping me cooled off. Lights off, fan on. So yeah, please bear with me. I can't record in the car anymore. It's quieter in the car, but it's hotter in the car. And I don't really have another place that I can record. So I don't want to drive down the street over to the post office and record there. There's no shaded spots there until 4. So I can't go there right now. And then in front of our house, there's no shade where I park. So I'm stuck indoors trying to talk kind of quietly and dealing with the construction issues that are going on. But also I'm off today, so, I'm recording during normal business hours. So be it. If it's going to get the recordings out, that's how it's going to be. So please bear with me. I know the quality is definitely not ideal, but I hope the content's good enough. So yeah, let me get back to talking about credit. So credit, I've been slightly studying credit, a little bit more often. More by trial and error, and then more by looking into different techniques that people use. So I've talked about this card. It's called Chime. The difficulty with Chime is that you have to have direct deposit of at least $200, qualifying direct deposit of at least $200 to be sent to the debit card for it to activate options for you to even get the credit card. And then, so it's a process. And then if you qualify and get the credit card, you can use that to build your credit. The card that's called Extra, now it's a little different. You do have to pay about $8 a month to have that card stay open, but you can build your credit with it slightly. So the first month, I want to say I raised my score maybe 7 points. The second month, 1 point, and now this is the third month. So about 90 days later, I don't think it raised any other points yet. Let me see. Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure I haven't raised any points because my last evaluation period was, I think, 2 days ago. And before that, it was on the 4th of August. So let me see. So I'm looking at my bank account, and trying to find where it shows the credit score. Let's see. So, sorry, I talk slow when I'm thinking. I apologize. So if I go into my extra, my account is called Extra. It's an app, and it can tell you your credit score. Yeah, mine hasn't gone up for this third month at all. So the first month it was 7 points. The second month it was 1 point. So overall, paying $24 total for this card has raised my score 8 points. And that's just with spending on just regular purchases, groceries, mostly food purchases, a little bit of Uber Eats, Instacart, couple car washes, just, Amazon Prime purchases. I just kind of had the card connected to a lot of different methods that I usually use, and then when I go in the stores, when I actually do go inside, I'll use that usually to purchase. For the last 3 months I've been doing that now. So actually it's not been 3 whole months, but it's been 3. Let me see, because I started this near Cinco de Mayo. So all of May, all of June, and then all of July. So my credit score reading from July was going to be posted in August. And nothing changed, nothing increased during the month of July. So talking about credit scores, there are a lot of different topics to cover, but overall some different options to consider in addition to these types of cards. There's also a card called Tomo that's I still haven't even been fully cleared for it. I'm in still a waiting stage for it. I'm in a different category of waiting now. I'm qualified, but I'm still waiting for another level of verification of some sort that I don't know why they're taking so long, but that one's in the works. I just heard back from them within the last month. I don't know of any other cards off the top of my head, but there are quite a few others similar to this. Now, in addition to these types of cards, there are lines of credit that aren't necessarily always recommended. And again, you guys, I can't say it enough. In every single recording, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an educator professionally in this field. I'm just talking from personal experience, from my own reviews that I'm kind of doing with different testing and products that I'm trying out, as well as, describing my own learning process, learning about finance, learning about, different aspects of money, finance, funding, trying to get to a point where I have a lucrative amount of success with all of these things I'm trying, and I'm trying them little by little, and credit building just happens to be one of the few things I'm trying out, in addition to better budgeting and financial, actually planning out details, working on my savings, working on my investments, my retirement account, definitely building multiple streams of income, and working on different emotional states and stress levels and stuff like that kind of also impacts how I'm tracking this, my energy to track things like this, my desire and motivation to stick to my plans and my goals. Um, so, okay. People talk about, what's called, like, you can build your credit through getting a line of credit. So what happens a lot of times is a lot of people don't really qualify for credit lines that are very large. So let me give you an example. Something that may be common. You may not have any credit. Your credit score may be in the 650, 660-ish level. With no credit cards and just, you're just paying for stuff and you don't have like massive debt, but you also haven't built your credit. So usually anything that's over 700 is really considered good. You're doing really well. There are people who are like in the 720, 740 ranges, that are doing really well. Now, I don't know if it's different state to state, but where I live, things like if you're trying to rent like an apartment or things like that, getting a car, a loan for a car or anything like that, usually a 600 credit score is usually going to put you in a decent enough spot to, be considered without somebody questioning too much. Over 600, you're usually pretty good to go. Under 600, usually people are going to start thinking like, that kind of means that you've, had some issues with bills, with payments, with paying on time, with having debts that go into collections. So there are a lot of different categories that go into your credit score. I don't want to get like way too detailed about that kind of stuff right now, but there are a lot of things that go into your credit score. So, if you use CreditWise shows you kind of what goes into your score. And I think I've talked about this before, but you have a percentage of on-time payments. You have your oldest line of credit, the percentage of credit used, however many recent inquiries you've had in the past 2 years. If you had any new accounts within the past 2 years, and then available credit in dollar amount. And so these are categorized from anywhere from some are categorized like from below average all the way up to excellent. And when you click on them, it gives you kind of what is considered below average versus excellent. So for example, age of your oldest account, if you're between 0 to 2 years for your oldest account, that's going to be considered below average. If you have your oldest account 25 plus years, that is going to be considered excellent. And it shows that this is moderately going to impact your credit score. So something that's a very high impact on your credit score is going to be the percentage of payments that you make on time. So for below average, if you're making less than 90% on time, that's below average. So anything under 90% of your payments made on time is going to already put you below average. And then 100% is excellent. Between 98 to 99% is good. And average is considered 90 to 97%. So you can see already 90%. You need to have over 90% of your payments made on time. And over 90% preferably between, like, if you want good to excellent, 98 to 100% need to be made on time, because this is going to very highly impact your credit score. For use of credit, percentage of credit used. Again, if you're using between 0 to 10%, that's considered excellent. The rule of thumb that people usually say, what I think most people have usually heard, and what I had usually heard too, up until kind of more recently when I started listening to some other people with some better credit scores. Before, I was hearing about 30%, people saying like 30%, don't go over 30% of credit use. This would mean if you have a card, say if you have a credit line of $100 or $1,000, let's say $1,000 credit limit on one of your credit cards, you wouldn't be spending over $300, right? Or if you had a $100 credit limit, you wouldn't be spending over $30. But recently I've heard, I know Jack was mentioning from Iced Coffee Hour that him and Graham Stephan do. He was mentioning his credit score, is improving. He's like in the mid 700s, and he uses about 10%, and 10% seems to be what is recommended based on credit wise. It has a high impact on your credit score. So those are things you want to pay attention to. Is, are you using the percentages or the category for good and excellent? That's what's going to raise your score as well. So recent inquiries, it's best to have 0. 1 to 2 would be considered good. 3 to 5 is average. If you have over 6 or over, that's below average. And that's looking in the past 2 years. So that means, have you applied for a line of credit? Right? Is that what it? Yeah. Have you applied for a credit card or anything like that? That counted against your credit score. This is supposed to have a low impact on your credit score. But then again, when you look at what's going to be a low impact versus a very high impact, you also want to consider that, even something that might be a low impact, you still want to take that into account. I wouldn't say that it would be wise to go, towards bad, or like towards what's considered like below average. You still want to try to do what's recommended to your best ability. However many new accounts you have in the past 2 years, that has a low impact on your credit score. For it to be excellent, 0 to 2 new accounts in the within 2 years, or good, 3 to 4 within the past 2 years. I would say probably not even really wanting to look at average or below average if possible, just trying to keep things good and excellent, because average doesn't really move your score too much. Excellent and good might move it a little bit, but then excellent is going to move it a lot more. It seems to me that things that keep coming up, 6-month periods. So every 6 months, it seems like there's kind of an evaluation period per line of credit that you have. Every 6 months, they're kind of looking at it. Also, available credit. You want to have, for it to be excellent, which for a lot of people, this might be really complex to get a credit limit, one line of credit, or total. It says total available credit, so I think it's total, all your lines of credit total, $50,000 or more. So $50,000 or more, and to be within the good range between $15,000 and $50,000. Within the average range, $2,500 to $15,000, and then below average, 0 to $2,500 or 2,500. Sorry, I don't know why I'm saying it that way. But it's listed as like 2.5K. But yeah, I think you guys see what I mean. It's hard when you look at all of these different things that are impacting a score. So going back to this card, this extra debit card that improves your credit, the only thing it's really reporting back is the on-time payments, right? The on-time payments, which are a very high impact of your score, on your score. But again, like you saw, I've only been using it for like 3 months. I'm going to go to the 6-month mark with that card. I'm like at the halfway period now, and only 7 points total have raised. I haven't done anything else, right? Anything else. So the next step after looking at, credit-wise or something similar, I like credit-wise because it breaks everything down. It's linked to my Capital One 360 account. It's accurate. It tells you a whole lot of details. It gives you tips. It shows you kind of even more details on, if you look at your score, other than what affects your credit score, you can look on how to improve, right? So it gives you an option to do like a simulation. You could do a credit simulator. If you want a certain amount of change, you can kind of look at the options. So it has options like I might want to pay off some of my credit card debt, and then it says pay off up to however many dollars, make my payments on time, like for 6 months, for a year, for 18 months, for 2 years, buy something with my available credit, and it shows you how much you would have available. Increase the credit limit on one card. It gives you an option to put what amount, by what amount. Open a new credit card, and then you want to put what the limit of that credit card is that you would want. And again, you're going to be filling this out according to potentially other areas that aren't listed as good or excellent or even excellent. If you're not excellent in an excellent category from all of those that I had previously listed, you might want to consider where to adjust here and look at it through the simulator to see what they would recommend for you to do. So if you wanted to open a new credit card and transfer a balance, you would put the amount transferred. And then you have the option here where it says what would it look like kind of if I canceled my oldest credit card. If you borrow money to buy a house, what amount? If you borrow money to buy a car, what amount? If you take out a personal loan, what amount? Apply for a loan. Number of however many loan applications you would have to do to get that particular loan. Because sometimes it's not just, okay, I apply for a loan, I got it. It says I might have to allow one account to become delinquent, and then it gives you the option 30 days, 60 days, 90 days of becoming delinquent. Allow all of my accounts to become delinquent, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then have my property foreclosed on, make child support payments, have my wages garnished. So you can put in all these kind of options and numbers, and then when you press simulate at the bottom, what it does is it gives you a kind of output of what that would look like. So say if you had to make child support payments, you were opening a new credit card with a limit of $1,000, and if you had to make payments on time for the next 18 months and pay off some of your credit card debt up to, I don't know, let's pick a number, $6,000, I don't know, and then you press simulate, and it kind of tells you what that would look like. And then it tells you also what your current credit score is, what your simulated score would be after you've made those changes. Like, so what things would look like 18 months later after you've been doing those things, or however long later after you've been doing those things. And then what the number of change would be for your credit score. So that's really a really cool feature. You can look at your score change as well as history, so you can see what happened where and when, what your credit score was, what kind of helped raise the score. It kind of shows you the details, and so that's pretty cool. You can look at alerts if you have any alerts. It can tell you, if there's dark web activity associated with your account. I tend to get that alert a lot. I don't know why. Maybe it's true. I don't know. It tells you all kinds of other alerts. If you have like an improved account, if you have any email addresses that were compromised, if you have any new inquiries. It tells you a whole lot of stuff on here. Let me see. If there were any uses of your social security number with a different name or address, anything like that, anything that could be an alert towards your credit, that could be impacting things for you. You want to look at that. If you look at it can give you like websites. If there was a breach, it can give you the site. It can give you the information, even dark web information of like what was happening where, when, and you can kind of trace and see if that's something that you know about, or is it like a complete surprise. Hopefully it's just like one of those things. It's like, I'm just getting a bunch of spam email, not like way too much, but like some, versus like, this is like actually an issue and I'm getting like hacked or something, and somebody's actually doing something internally that's like impacting my credit score. You want to make sure of that as well. So that in general is how to look at this CreditWise app, or the CreditWise option linked to your debit card, your debit card account. And it recommends products for you as well, some things that you can read about the importance of credit, how lenders decide if you're credit worthy, giving I don't know, it has like a little video clip and stuff like that. And it's pretty interesting, but I would say, if you don't want to look at it yourself, you can always go either listen to this podcast, another podcast, or watch a YouTube video on CreditWise, on like a tutorial or review of how to use it. Well, a review of the site, like people's opinions about it, but then like you can view, what you think. Sorry, there's like weed whackers and stuff going on out in the yard. I'm just really distracted. But yeah, you can look at pretty much like reviews to see if people like using CreditWise, or tutorials on how to use it, and see if that works for you. So something else that people do is, and I wanted to mention all that. Sorry that it took so long, but I wanted to talk about all those topics because getting into this next area of conversation, there's a lot that other people kind of recommend that you look at, that you do. So, and I want to mention too that the Mint app, Mint is good too. Mint is helpful. It's a pretty good website too, in teaching you, or showing more details. So Mint is good at showing like each account that you have up to date. Hopefully if you keep it up to date, it'll be up to date with like everything from like, you can connect your Robinhood for investments, you can connect all kinds of other accounts, your retirement account, you can connect like student loans that you owe, credit cards that you owe, bank accounts that you have money in, and it shows like all your money kind of in one spot, and just kind of all your debt, all of your income, all like even like with taxes, it's all kind of like connected. So that is cool too. I really like that. So let me see. So you can go into, sorry, I feel like I'm totally blanking. I ate a big meal, so I'm like, my brain is now like trying to like take a nap. If you go to, where is this? Like Noel, there's a lady online named Noel. There's another guy, Bandman Kevo. Those two, I've kind of read a lot of their stuff, as well as this YouTube channel, Credit Suite. So I think it's Noel Randall, Bandman Kevo, and Credit Suite. Those three, content creators, I've learned a lot about credit from, as well as, Graham Stephan and Jack, just how they talk about it so often. So a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about next kind of have to do with a little bit of what they've said. So I know Noel Randall was talking about, and so also on Credit Suite and Bandman Kevo, they've also talked about like these different like jeweler lines that you can get, different types of like online shops that you can kind of do. So I'll talk about a little bit about these. So some pros, it's easy to get. It doesn't matter what your credit score is. It's easy to get those lines of credit. You just sign up for like the Jewelers Club or whatever the heck it is, right? But keep listening to me here. Don't just go pay for it. It's usually not free. You usually have to put your own money into it, and there's usually like a fee. So say if you put $250 of your own money in it, and say it costs you $10 a month, just for example, that's already $50, $10 you're not going to use. $250 that you have, that you're going to use, but you can only use it on that site. So if it's like Jewelers Club or something like that, you're buying watches and stuff that's even at a marked up price. So initially what I thought was, okay, I could do some like retail arbitrage or some kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, but kind of like drop shipping type of situation with some products. So I was looking at products and I realized they're all marked up. So say a watch that would cost like $55 on Walmart, Walmart's website, or off of like, some other site, it would be like $70-$80 or something like that. It's like, so you already can't even resell it, and then you're already paying more money just for the purpose of trying to build your credit. So that's the honest truth about a lot of those types of sites. Unless you're really already gonna buy something on there, or unless you're already unless it's some kind of hobby that you have that like, or if you can resell it at a profit, or I don't know, it would be up to the individual, up to you, if you feel like it would be worth it to pay money for something you don't really need that costs more than it would anywhere else, just to raise your credit score. And I don't know how much your credit score raises. I never really tried it because it just once I looked into it more, I was like, let me not. I almost impulsively did. I looked at it and I was like, this sounds cool. I want to raise my credit score. Let me like buy it now. Let me buy it now. Let me like start now. But then I was like, because my goal was to drop ship or do some retail arbitrage and make a profit. And when I realized I can't resell this stuff for profit because it's already so expensive, I'd have to be marking it like way up. So even sites like where I usually would sell stuff like Mercari or something like that, they already take a cut. So say if I'm buying this $55 worth watch for like $75, and then I'd have to try to sell it for like over $100 just to make over $75 back. And it's like, it's already just a $55 watch everywhere else. So it's like, I'm really not going to sell it. And I don't really want to buy it either. So it was kind of like, I feel like unless you're really going to buy the stuff, if you don't have a plan to buy it already, or if you can find products that you can resell for a profit, if it's not really stuff that you want, that might be a little more worth it. But I can't really justify, paying for a line of credit to buy stuff that you don't need to raise your credit score, unless it's raising it like a lot. Like it would have to be a significant raise. Because like I was saying, with the extra debit card, it's like, okay, I raised it a few points, but it's $8 a month. I can cancel anytime. It's technically a debit card that reports to the credit bureaus about your on-time payments. Because what it does is it pays back what you spent. So it connects to your bank account. It tracks how much you spent using the extra debit card, and then after a couple days, it dips into your bank account and takes out the amount of money that you spent swiping your extra card. So you have to have the money in your bank, but they almost use it as if you were paying back that card every few days, every couple days, every week, whatever. Like you're paying it back out of your own money. The money's already there. And I like that it tells you how much money is available, and it gives you a limit, so it doesn't put all your money from your whole bank account available on your extra debit card account. It doesn't put it all available. So you're not at risk of spending like all your money at once. So that's something that's cool about it too, is that, it might have a couple hundred, and then a couple days later, maybe 400, 500, 600, 1,000. Like, it's not like you always have a whole lot of money in there all the time. And so you're not really gonna be likely to just like spend it all in one place all at once. Like, that's not really likely. Like, you're doing kind of smaller payments, smaller purchases. And it depends on your account too, because if you have a whole lot of money in your account, I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be different. But it's not your whole bank account. It's usually a percentage of whatever's in your bank account. They make it available for you to use your extra card on. I don't think I've seen it where it's like every day, whatever my bank account reads is 100% what's available on that extra card. It's not like that, at least for me, it hasn't been. So that also kind of keeps you like financially in the right place. You can't really just like spend everything. You have to spend even less than you already have, because it's keeping track, because it's connected to your bank account. So that card does raise your score a little bit, but again, you are paying like $8 a month. Something else that they recommend is called credit cleaning. So going through your whole entire credit score, you can use something like Mint to look at your credit history and see if loans, credit card, lines of credit, all kinds of mortgage, whatever you may have, if it's all listed on there. So if it's accurate, good. If it's not accurate, okay, you need to kind of resolve that. Now, I don't really have like a full, complete strategy at this, but if you have things that are in collections versus stuff that is actively like late payments, but you see that you could potentially pay. Now, I don't know how to really strategize, what you would prioritize paying. But the way I think about it, the way I see things and look at things, whatever is going to have the highest impact on your credit score, right? So say if you have a debt of $2,000 of, I don't know, like a personal student loan due, and, it's not in collections yet. You're still eligible to make payments, and you're supposed to make, I don't know, like your minimum payment is like $100 a month or something. I don't know, $100 a month you're supposed to pay, and you look at your bank and you're like, I can pay $100 a month on this, and you can get it into good standing, or you can even just start making payments. And the cool thing is you can find how it tracks the payments that were late or never paid versus the payments that were on time. You can look at a whole chart of that and decide how to pay. And then, you can look at accounts like that are like, okay, I can start making payments. Now, I know Dave Ramsey talks a lot about, the debt snowball. There are different methods that you can definitely use. But I would say too, in addition to those methods, like trying to strategize, trying to see, okay, like where can I get a credit line that I can spend 10%, So even if you do get a prepaid kind of card, usually it's going to be like 6 months use of that credit card, right? So first off, 6 months use of that card. So it's not going to really start immediately right away. You're still going to want to check by like the 6 month mark. Some of those cards, the ones that are like the prepaid ones, you'll have to pay a fee. Say it's like $100 to pay for it, just to activate it, and then you have to put like $200 for your credit limit on there, and then you can use it every month. So 10% of 200 is $20. That means if you have that card, you can only use $20. So you're going to want to find, I would say the strategic method would be find something that you need to pay off already. So you need to already pay it off. You're in a place to start making monthly payments, and you pay it off using that card, $20 a month or whatever. So you're using the credit card itself to pay down a debt that's impacting your credit already, if that makes sense, right? So if you have that loan that has $100 that you want to pay off every month, you can maybe find a way to pay off 20 of it off of that card and then pay 80 another way, if that's allowed. Or if you can't break it up with paying through like different cards, you might have to consider, just some other method. But it would kind of make more sense to, not just pay for gas, $20 a month worth of gas. Because, yes, you pay for the gas and you need the gas, but in the long run, that's not helping you necessarily. Like, yes, it might help you build the line of credit by using, or it might help you build your credit score by using the 10% of that line of credit, but it's not like improving the cycle of things. And so if you can incorporate that even small $20, which is 10% of the $200, and just strategically just even setting it up so it's like, even if you have to make it automatic for yourself so that the $20 payment comes out every month, and that automatically, if it's linked to one of your accounts, that you get the $20 to, automatically deposit back into that credit card, so that it keeps a $200 it keeps the $200 limit on there. You're never going longer without paying it back. You're never spending over 10%, definitely not over 30%. You're not maxing it out to 200. Those are the types of things that I would say would be like the types of strategies you'd want to try to look at. I'm not saying that specifically, but that's what I mean when I say strategy, is like looking at, knowing about credit, knowing about lines of credit, knowing about your credit score, right? Knowing what impacts it, what areas specifically you need to work on, where it is that, your credit's getting dinged. If it's getting dinged and it's decreasing, you want to know why, where, how, what's keeping it in one spot, So that's what I'm trying to do right now, is figure out what it is that's keeping my credit score just steadily, when it just barely increased a little bit, but now it's just like at one number, and it hasn't really increased in a month. In 3 months it's increased a little bit, 8 points total, but that was 7 points 1 month, 1 point 1 month, and then 0 points the third month. And so I don't know if I can increase it more. I don't think that just using the extra card is going to increase my credit score. I think I'm going to have to, do some other strategies like I mentioned. Now, I don't really have a credit card that I actually use, but it's something to look into. And also, like I was saying, like when you're looking in the cards, it's good to read the information, know what it says. Are you paying like an annual fee of like $80 to $100 every year? Are you not? Do you get like interest, gains on it? Like, can you use it to withdraw cash? I mean, that's always a perk too. Like what kind of options do you have? Some lines of credit, some credit cards seem good, but they're really not. So it's really good to look at, be frugal, you want something that's going to be the most bang for your buck. So even if you do end up getting like a secured card, you have to prepay it. You probably don't want a secured card that's going to be the most expensive secured card, where you're going to spend so much money on that dang card, right? And especially if it's like an annual fee, because it's like there's 6 months, there's 12 months in a year, and 2 periods that you're kind of every 6 months, kind of the major reevaluation for that card. So is it really worth $100 extra to you every year? Especially say if it's a card where you pay $100 a year for $200, like I mentioned, like $100 a year you pay for a $200 credit limit, where you're only spending $20 a month. I mean, that's what you're only spending $240 a month, and then you spend $100 a month on it, right? Like, so when you kind of look at the numbers, it's like that doesn't really add up. Like, does that make financial sense, that I'm basically spending $250 or $240 to improve my credit, and you're actually spending $340 to improve your credit score, however much, and not to count the amount of time and energy it takes to, keep organized with it and make sure the payments are on time. If you don't have things set up automatically, you do want to look at it and check it and like make sure you're like doing it on time and stuff. But yeah. So that's pretty much how I would look at this whole credit score thing. Let me see. I'm trying to think if there's more. If there's kind of like more that I would like say, or yeah. So credit cleaning is another one. Yeah, credit cleaning is basically, looking at your how do I explain this? Sorry. Looking at your sorry, I'm trying to look for something here. Sorry, I apologize. So looking for like hold on, I have to text one of my friends. Sorry. All right. So trying to look for incorrect information. So is something charged off? Is something in collections? Is there something that's incorrect? Like you don't actually have a line of credit with that company, or a loan with that company, or an overdue payment with that company, or something like that. Like if it's wrong, you can get it changed. But those are kind of like the major kind of tips that come up. And then recently Graham Stephan was speaking about credit scores kind of being changed, or maybe not really used as a necessity in the coming future. So potentially it looks like the government is trying to consider credit scores as, I put it this way. I can see it as it's a strategy that they're using to get the economy to be more stimulated. So, in the articles Graham was reading, it was talking about, over 50%, like 56 or so percent of people don't qualify for, a credit card, right? And then I talked too about, when you look at credit wise, seeing what amount of a line of credit would be considered excellent, good. So you need definitely over 2.5K. So over $2,500. You'd need over that amount of a credit line to be considered average. That's just average. That's not even like good or excellent. You need over 2.5K of a credit line. Now, mind you, if you only can get those secured cards, they're usually a lower amount of a credit line, right? And then if you're talking about credit utilization, like needing already to pay 98 to 100% on time and using 10% of your credit line, right? So it's like when you look at it, if you even had an average credit line amount that you could use, and you're only spending 10% of that, 10% of 2.5K. So you're not even spending the whole amount, right? Just like I was saying, if you get the secured card for $200 and you're only spending 10% of that, that's $20, right? So you're not even really spending your full credit limit, ideally, right? So you need to have more to be able to spend more. You need to have a higher credit limit to be able to spend more on more significant things. So if you were using your credit limit, the 10% limit, to be able to pay off bills that you already owe, or to pay off debts that are already affecting your credit, to improve your credit, you'd basically have to have a whole lot of a high credit limit, right? But the problem is, if over 56 or so approximately percentage of people can't qualify for those cards, they're only really qualifying for a lower amount. And people are either relying on like payday loans, or relying on secured cards, or some other method where the government's not benefiting from this, because everyone's credit score is staying low. It's not raising, right? And so that's just one thing to keep in mind, is when they're making those types of changes, seeing what it is that is, they're trying to stimulate the economy and trying to make a profit off of this new type of change, right? So they're changing it for a benefit that they would reap a benefit, right? And so, yeah, they would benefit from that if everybody's credit score wasn't necessarily considered with purchases. People would be able to buy more stuff. You'd have a better chance at an apartment or a house application, car options of getting, a car, options of qualifying for loans. And our government relies on debt. Our government relies on our debt. Because ideally our debt works in their favor. Kind of same with health, right? Physical health. If we don't have access to affordable, healthy foods that are quick to eat and make and convenient, humans have an impulsivity in their nature. It takes a lot to practice discipline. We're very easy to not discipline ourselves and to just do what we want when we feel like it. It's easier, it's fun, it's more fun, it's seen as less stressful. You get what you want now. You get the reward now, and then if there's a cost to that reward, then you deal with that later, right? So that's just something I want to mention, as well as so when we start seeing the credit score might disappear, or it might be looked at a little bit differently now, it's mostly because the government's noticing that nobody has any money, and if people have low credit scores and can't get debt, they're not benefiting from the fact that we can't even have access to cards and loans and that kind of stuff. So be careful with that too, because I think for a lot of people, they might get a little tripped up with it and say, hey, if I don't need a line of credit for this, or if I'm gonna now qualify for stuff that I couldn't qualify for before, now I can take out this loan, now I can do this, now I can do that. But then, trying not to use your loans and that kind of money just to splurge on, unnecessary things. Now, if you do have trouble controlling yourself with splurging, what I would usually recommend for people would be don't buy something that has no resale value. Don't buy something that you can't sell at a profit or resell at a profit. Don't buy something that you can't resell at least part of what you already paid. So at least once you stop using it, or once you might realize to yourself, oh, like that was a bad impulsive purchase decision, okay, at least you can sell it now, right? Versus, sorry, I timed out. I was trying to say buying something that you already can't afford. Because if you're already purchasing something you can't afford, it's going to be a bit rough, right? So yeah, like just keeping that in mind. And then I mean, something else I've noticed during the Rona is that people are qualifying for more loan options. People are qualifying for more, maybe they don't qualify for more lines of credit, but there are a lot of different types of credit options opening up. And you are seeing a lot of banks doing a lot of interesting things. So banks, as well as like Visa, MasterCard, those types of companies, getting kind of more involved in crypto, and then regulations coming up with crypto to kind of limit people more often. There's something coming up about that recently they're talking about brokers. So anyone that's considered a broker, a crypto broker, I think it was on Millennial Money YouTube channel, they were talking about this. Anyone who's considered a broker, that could be anyone from between minors or I don't know, just anybody. It doesn't have to be like your stereotypical broker, but anyone who's a broker, considered a broker, or meets the criteria of being a broker, they're going to have some limitations, as well as, people needing to provide their social security numbers for some types of crypto. I think it's for some types of crypto or some wallets that you use. But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose, right? Because the whole purpose is to not have government involvement in, and there's the importance also of things being decentralized. So I'm still learning a lot about that, but yeah, it's kind of like food for thought, trying to, make sure that when you see things coming up, that, yes, there's one side that's like, okay, good. This is a benefit to the citizens, benefit in our society in some way or another. You can see how you could potentially benefit from loans or credit lines and things like that. But then you can see how the government, would benefit from us having more access to debt. Because that's basically what it is, right? Them trying to change how the credit score impacts us having access to debt. If they kind of change the criteria or change something that makes it so that you can have more access to it, then that's literally what it is. You're getting more access to debt. That's what's happening. So when you think about it that way, it's like, some people find debt as useful, helpful. They would find it useful or helpful in like to use debt to their advantage. So there are people who are able to do this, and it definitely takes a lot of planning, strategizing, patience, not getting too impulsive, or, if you do, learning from the mistakes quickly. Like I've mentioned in previous episodes about, my past impulsivity with getting too overly excited with like drop shipping and purchasing a bunch of stuff that couldn't even be resold easily or even at a profit, and just buying a bunch of merchandise that I couldn't really move. And it's like, if I would have just taken my time, thought, I had an idea, I had good reason to think it would sell, but I hadn't really done any pilot studies or put it into practice. I was really impatient, and I was like, oh, I have all this money, let me spend it all, instead of, testing products, testing websites. I was just like, spend the money on a domain for a year, and spend the money on building a website, and spend the money on my Shopify account, and like spend the money on products. And then once that money was gone, it was gone. And, I was left with a bunch of stuff. No profit really to see from it. No major profit. I made some of the money back, but a lot of it was gone. And I probably still have some of the products somewhere around. I don't really know. But I think when it came to the instruments and things, I think I did move those, but I also didn't have the energy or motivation to really track how much I was making back. I kind of had an estimate in my head, which was terrible. I wouldn't recommend that. But I was like, I don't know if I broke even or made a profit or what. I wasn't really like doing a good business at that time. So I could see that, having access to debt, when you have a strategy about it and you're able to be patient about it, and you're able to use the funds to kind of do what you want, have fun, have an enjoyable experience, and over time you're making money. I could see that as, okay, that kind of makes more sense. If you have more access to debt, you can use that debt either for those types of things, which would be like making more money. Because the thing is about having access to larger sums of money at once is you can actually purchase something that ordinarily you'd either have to save longer for. So you could have the money to be able to spend all at once on that one thing that is going to yield profit, or, you have to just strategically, in small increments over time, build it over time. And human nature, we want instant gratification. So in my mind, when I spent all of a loan once, pretty much thinking I was going to sell a bunch of stuff on eBay and get like deep into drop shipping real quick, quit my job and start doing that. Like, first of all, I didn't have the energy. Second of all, I didn't have the motivation. Third of all, I didn't have the knowledge or education or experience. And I thought that, I'd watched a lot of videos. I'd seen a bunch of stuff. I'd been super pumped up by it. But I didn't really know that, I have to go back and track this. But that's also something that I don't really want to do. I wasn't in the mood to, put out spreadsheets and track all the stuff I was doing. I was not in the mood. So if I wasn't doing it in my personal life, I don't know what made me think I was going to do it, for these types of, drop shipping projects. I just underestimated the energy it would take to actually get to a place where I could make a profit. Now, I think I could have profited financially from this if I would have taken my time, if I would have tested products, if I would have tracked how much I was spending versus how much I was making, and if I would have used the proceeds to reinvest, and then keeping an eye on the loan as well, and then paying that back, too, versus the way I did it, which was not that at all. It was just like completely not a good way of doing it. But I don't have regrets that I did that. I just, I've learned from it. But I could see how having access to debt in that type of method would benefit someone to try to get ahead, or try to, because we do hear about like side hustles, additional streams of income, building your own wealth, and methods to do that. Really, you can do that by, I'm learning more and more. Yes, having strategies. Yes, testing, kind of how you've designed, testing your ideas, seeing if it works, just constantly testing and evaluating and keeping an eye on it, not just like doing it out of like the emotion and impulse, but doing it more out of a strategy and patience. So if you do have debt that you are planning to get, that's the one thing I would say would be a tip to consider. Is the debt that you're going in to go travel to Europe and like spend all the money backpacking across somewhere, or is the loan going to be to potentially make you how much money? And even trying to put it down, 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, 30 days, 1 week, what's it going to look like? What's it going to look like? It can be fun. I can't tell you how much fun I have, with projects. I get like super pumped up. I'm like, yes, I have a project. It kind of keeps me motivated. And, but it's not motivating when you don't do good on your project, or when you feel like you failed it, or when you get into debt because of it, or you don't reach your goal, or you just spent a bunch of money. And then you're like, now I have no more energy to like put into this project. I kind of am giving up on it a little. But that's kind of what I would say is, you can use debt to your advantage if you're gonna do it anyways. If that's what you're gonna do and that's the way you plan to do it anyways, that's an option. A lot of people recommend completely staying away from any debt at all. And a lot of people recommend using the debt to your advantage. So that's kind of what you'd want to consider is, do you have the willpower, the impulse control, when you have all that money in your hands, to be able to stick to the game plan, to stick to your strategies, to keep on motivating and tracking and testing on your own? Or do you feel like that's going to be too much? Maybe you might want to avoid a large amount and take a smaller amount, or not any amount at all. But a lot of this, again, it's just food for thought. Like I mentioned however many times, I'm not trained in this field. I'm just talking from someone who has quite a few years of experience with trying different projects and trying different things, and a deep interest in very nerdy, tedious projects that involve analyzing and things like that. And so that's what kind of leads me to have an interest in finance, is mostly because, not only does it help, not only is it fun to learn about, but it also, once you can kind of develop strategies for yourself, you can kind of see those benefits in your own life. You can see it unfolding. You can see how it reduces stress when you have funds. You can see how it reduces stress when you are using your money for fun projects and you have money in those projects, or if you're using your money for investments and things like that, versus like you have to go to, and I'm not knocking people because I've done it before, but by the end of the month you're at the coin star trying to scrape up coins out of your ashtrays and out of your laundry dryer, and seeing which coins you can find to put together to try to get a few dollar bills together, because it's embarrassing to pay in coins, but it's also embarrassing to go to the coin star that they put right at the front of the stupid store so everybody can watch you. But yeah, that would be something that I would say would be worth it to a lot of people, is to not have to deal with that. Not have to deal with the payday loan, predatory, money stores, not getting those denial letters from credit card companies, not having to go into your bank to withdraw 19 or 17 or whatever dollars because you don't have $20 to your name to use the actual ATM. Not having to call up mom and dad to borrow some money because you're going to be short on rent. Stuff like that. It's like, that's uncomfortable too, right? That's uncomfortable too. Let's be real. None of that for most of us is going to put your ego in a good place. None of that for most of us is going to make us more self-confident or feel more like proud and like, stable and like feel good about ourselves if we don't feel like we have those things under control and we're relying on these other things that are either emotionally stressful or just kind of put you in a panic. It's one thing to get a loan when you can pay it back. It's another thing to get a loan when you're like, it's just going to hold me over for this amount of weeks before I need to like figure something else out. I talk from experience. I'm one of those people who has literally had to make the decision before of stopping using one bank account and having my work have to direct deposit into a brand new bank account because I had so much automatic debt payments coming out of my initial bank account that I wasn't hardly getting my paychecks. So yeah, that's the embarrassing truth. I will share this stuff. I've had that as part of my life at one point in time before, and there was a point where I was like, never ever again. Never again. I'm never ever, unless it's actually an emergency, which is different, but I'm never gonna put myself in the position again where I've just been like spending and not tracking and just living it up, and then I'm like, I gotta call somebody to help me with this rent or whatever. That got to a point for me that honestly it got old, and I was sick of having to figure out every couple weeks how I was going to deal with things versus actually using my financial planning to kind of do something fun, planning trips, planning projects that, okay, like I might make some money off of this, strategizing, seeing where I do make money, seeing where I do save money. When I save the money, what do I do with the savings? Different stuff like that, learning. And I try to learn a bit. If it's not every day enough, I try to learn often. There are a lot of podcasts and radio shows and a lot of stuff that I listen to, that I watch, that I find interesting, that I like to just put on in the background, maybe if I'm driving or working out or something like that. And that's one way of learning, I'm like, I don't really watch TV. I just kind of listen to stuff. And, when I feel like it, and little by little, I've learned little things. Little by little, I've kind of noticed my role in my own situations that have come up. So yeah, so that is kind of all I really had to say as far as what's going on lately with credit scores, and kind of how to look at debt, how to think about debt. Not everyone has the same opinions on debt, obviously, but I think it's only really good for people who have really good impulse control, who are really good at strategizing and being patient. And even then, you can't guarantee, like, for example, when the Rona hit and people didn't have jobs, there was a lot of stuff that you couldn't do. You couldn't sell. You couldn't sell stuff that people didn't really need. Well, certain things were really going up in price. Certain things were really needed, like laptops and, stuff like that for people to work from home. A lot of our motherboards and computer components are made in China. So when China wasn't able to produce a lot of things, we were kind of stuck with, what can be shipped and purchased in our own country. Even there was a point where even used laptops were marked up on eBay, and there was a lot of definitely scamming going on. There's always scamming whenever there's a need, but yeah, there was a lot happening. But on that note, it's kind of all I have to really say at the moment on that topic. Again, apologies today, guys. We got the construction in the background, but I'm doing my best here. Thanks for listening.